Hello, my name is Odonga Ocho. I'm a master's in political philosophy at the University of Pompeo Fabra. Today I'm defending my master's thesis dissertation on the title, Can Liberal Democracy Be Exported? Case study of Africa. Liberal democracy, I agree with the position of Fukuyama that is the final form of government. I agree to the extent that as long as there is no alternative now, it's the final form of government. However, the challenge, in my opinion, is that the world is wide and there are several cultures and civilizations that liberal democracy is being extended to. In a specific context to Africa, I understand the ingredients of a liberal democracy: regular, free and fair elections, accountability of leadership, individual rights and freedoms. Those are the key components according to Robert Dahl and many other authors. Now, in the African context, liberal democracy came after the Cold War with the World Bank and the structural adjustment programs, where policies were pushed into the African government, and it has been taking shape separately in different of the 54 African countries. Now, to this extent, it's important to note at this point that prior to the end of the Cold War, many African governments were quasi-socialist. They were towing the socialist line. So we see the injection of liberal democracy into an environment that is socialist in orientation and culturally and politically. So we see structural adjustment programs and cutting size of government. Now, my thesis is if liberal democracy is to be exported successfully to all parts of the world, there are three challenges that would come up. One is a Western ontology. Should liberal democracy be exported together with Western cultures? Two, can liberal democracy be exported without capitalism? Because in many sections of African society, we pursue the model of communism, we pursue the model of socialism, we pursue the model of Ubuntu. Where I am right now in Africa, everything is collectively owned. The land is collectively owned, the cattle is collectively owned, education is collectively done by the community. So as liberal democracy comes with individualism, we see immediately there is a clash of cultures that brings a challenge into the acceptability of liberal democracy. Thirdly, ethnicity. The Western world managed to blend and destroy ethnic divides and blends as opposed to some parts of Eastern Europe. Now, Africa, specifically Uganda, where I am, is ethnically so prone. Is ethnically so prone, like in my country, Uganda, there are 55 distinct ethnic groups. So what happens in a liberal democracy? A clique of people, the majority ethnic groups, go to elections, win elections, and then galvanize themselves in power. Now, this has to be analyzed in line with Chamlika's postulations about the role of ethnicity in liberal democracy. So by default, ethnicity has successfully undermined liberal democracy in Africa, and people in many cases see themselves in terms of ethnic lenses. Now, what is the way forward? There has been alternative propositions for liberal democracy. We have the great works of Professor Kwasi Kuredu, which has proposed consensual democracy. He was postulating the view that African democracy relies on consensus and does not rely on the majoritarian model. However, that model has also been heavily criticized, and practically it has also failed. It was tested in Uganda under the movement system. The manner of generating consensus, the dictatorial tendencies of the kingdoms and cultural leaders. So the aspects of consensual democracy can heavily be challenged and questioned. And what is my honest opinion on this? I want to quote what David Chandler says. He says, the view that the export of liberal democracy is seen as an ongoing process of regulation and international control rather than liberalization of independence. This would let me ask the question, is that why do some parts of the world like United Arab Emirates, who have not democratized, are still doing business with the United States of America? So in any way, I am not criticizing the liberal democracy. I agree with Fukuyama that it is the final form of government, but the aspects of implementation, it must tolerate a little bit of cultural blend so that we don't generate cultural shocks. The lessons from Japan, the way they have incorporated culture into liberalism and liberal democracy is where the debate goes. These are my thoughts, they are my preliminary arguments, and my thesis is that liberal democracy can succeed around the world if it accommodates the cultural elements of other society, if it is not tied together with exporting capitalism, if it is not tied together with exporting all aspects of freedom. Because if it is done conjunctively with exporting, then in the African sense, it will be seen to be exporting Western culture. That creates a friction. But come rain or sunshine, these issues will definitely be resolved in a way or another if society is allowed to customize liberal democracy, as long as individual freedoms, rights, and economic productivity and rights of property can be protected. Thank you so much again, and those are my humble submissions in these 6 minutes. Thank you.